Over the past 50 years, Climatech has grown and kept pace with the ever-changing HVAC industry, providing our customers with the best knowledge on the most innovative systems and services.
Serving Lorain and western Cuyahoga counties, Climatech is a full-service heating, air conditioning, and ventilation company. A third-generation, family-owned and operated company providing the most up-to-date level of service and installation with the best quality products.
Today, your comfort demands customized solutions, utilizing best industry practice combined with high-quality, reliable products that protect you and your home.
The HVAC industry will never stand still. It's a commitment to the environment that we learn, train, and produce next-level efficient products and services.
Partnering with Green Sky Financing and our dedicated customer care software allows us to give you the comfort that you need in your home.
Smart products, smart technicians, and dedication to details drive us to deliver highly effective products into your home today and into the future.
It is now week 14 of the Climatech Inc. NFL Prediction Show, and we're tied again here in the standings. Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee. Good to be back with you here, Vince, for another episode. And back and forth, we continue to go. And I think every single season we've gotten closer and closer and closer. And you thought you could get no closer than last year. This year has been the complete flip as we go back and forth almost every week or every other week.
Mile markers. I say it every year. Where are we on Halloween? Where are we on Thanksgiving? Where are we when we get back from states? And here we are. You can see the beard. I have not shaved in days, barely slept, but we are alive and kicking here, my man. Where are we when we get back from states? Well, you just said we are tied. Wild to believe. Excited for it. And yeah, I mean, just crazy. You know, we always talk about the first tiebreaker, always, you know, who had the best regular season record. That might be a tie. Second tiebreaker I think we talked about was who won the most head-to-heads, but we might have to work out a third tiebreaker pretty soon because yet again, here we are. Pretty wild stuff, but pretty fun.
We could do state championship predictions
as
the tiebreaker.
You ended up going 7 for 7, didn't you?
7 for 7.
So on that, I want to give a quick shout out. Not that anybody from Perry's watching, but if you are, thank you. And after we posted your highlight package, you probably are. We'll probably pick up some Perry fans.
Maybe.
I just want to say to the Perry fan base, I was blown away with everything you guys did. Love the fan base. Love Perry the Pirate. The mascot there was tremendous.
Yeah.
And just that game, you know, like we always say, to take you guys behind the show. And we're going to talk about pro football in a second. But just to take you guys behind the show, me and Cole always talk about that second game on Saturday tends to be a clunker. Tends to be the one where we start looking at our watch a little bit, you get a little tired, you start thinking about sleeping in your own bed that night, all those things. And that game was excellent.
It was good.
Came down to the wire. That was my favorite one of the weekend by far. So just want to shout out the Perry Pirates fan base, and also Liberty Center played a hell of a game to keep it close.
Yeah, shout out to Tony Bogan as well, our guy who was down on the field taking all the video, you know, did a lot of great work. And, you know, out there, thankfully, it wasn't like braving bad elements. Only on Friday did it have that like mist and that bit of rain throughout the day. But it was warmer this year than years past. So in general, weather was better. But again, Tony out there in the elements on the field, doing a great job with those clips. And of course, we were running that 3-man crew. And I did the math, had a great time covering state championships. But between Thursday evening to leaving Saturday evening, I myself spent 35 and a half hours in that press box. I know our times would have been pretty darn close there on that. Just because you got to bounce a little bit early for the last game, it'd be a little bit shorter. But again, we both put well over 30 hours in that press box over that course of 2.5 days, basically.
Happy to do it. It was fun. Definitely.
It was.
Appreciate everything you and Tony do. You guys know that. It's we had a photographer. We had a photographer there 2 of the 3 days. Yeah, for sure, man.
Yeah, busy weekend. You know, Dom Clary was, you know, leading his team of multiple photographers and a few people up there at the MAC championship. So again, a lot of coverage happening. And now we get to come back, relax a little bit more. We still got a lot going on. We still have plenty of content that we're putting up, a lot of coverage. People are switching focus to these winter sports. But you and I, we get to continue things as We get closer and closer to the playoffs here, but of course, we run the show all the way to the Super Bowl at the beginning of February. So a lot more time left coming up in the Climate Tech Inc. NFL prediction show. And now we can jump to our predictions here this week. And on Thursday night, Vince, it's the Pittsburgh Steelers and the New England Patriots. And I'm going to keep it short and sweet here. The Steelers, they're good defensively, like we've talked about before. Offensively, they have really struggled this year. It's a miracle that they have the record that they have. But the Steelers with Mike Tomlin continue to find ways to win. They did lose against Arizona. Not a good Arizona team. Maybe that's showing the chinks in the armor. And they've been glaring for Pittsburgh, but they still got the results. Now that loss against Arizona has to hurt Pittsburgh a bit. But they have a gimme going up against the Patriots, who have been awful. Doesn't matter if Trubisky's the guy in at quarterback for the Steelers. It's a matter of they're going to bounce back against the Patriots. I'm fully convinced about that. New England, there's a reason they've only won 2 games this season. It's because they're bad. They're in contention for one of the top picks in the upcoming NFL draft. This is not the Patriots franchise that we're used to of years past. It's really gone on a downhill turn the last couple of years, and it's hit rock bottom, the lowest that it's been. Hard to believe that a Bill Belichick team has such a bad record, and that's going to continue. Low-scoring ball game. Steelers win this one 17-13 is my best guess.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on this one. I think it's Steelers all the way. I don't think Trubisky is that far of a drop-off from Pickett, if at all. I almost kind of see them unilateral with each other. I would say that, I had a weird hunch last week that Arizona was going to win. Even before the injury, I just had a strange feeling all week that Arizona was going to pull off some win out of nowhere, and they did. But, kudos to them for getting that done. As you said, hard to believe a Bill Belichick team could be this bad. Just ridiculous. I think they've scored 3 points in 2 weeks all year long. I think they have the lowest point output. They're up there with the Jets and the Giants. It just I can't explain it, but I don't need to. Steelers should have a gimme, and of course I'll say this one last thing. Of course, this is the year where the Browns don't play New England. It seems like the Browns play New England every single year and get destroyed. They couldn't have played them this year. It never fails. That being said, though, I think we're going to go with the Steelers for sure.
Yeah, maybe it's a good thing, though, because it feels like the Browns always struggle against the Patriots, even when the Patriots aren't that great. Last year, they weren't very good. That was a game that I actually was at, and that Browns team played so bad against the Patriots last year. Ramondre Stevenson ran all over them in that game. So it doesn't matter how bad the Patriots are. Could they maybe potentially cause some issues for the Browns? I don't know. So I'm happy they're not necessarily playing them, because I feel like it would be an embarrassing loss, right, if they do go up against them. Fortunately for the Browns, they do have plenty of teams that are still weaker on their schedule here to finish up this year, which hopefully that allows them to find a way to get back above the Steelers, or at least be in a position where they can remain in a wild card spot, and we'll talk about them a little bit later. So same page for Thursday night, both going with the Steelers, but we move to an actually good game, and that's Sunday Night Football, which could very well be the best game of the entire weekend. It's a division matchup, a rivalry that we almost talked about a little bit last week, because we talked about Cowboys fans being very confident in their team and really slandering the Eagles. And then we thought that the Eagles needed their respect, and we both picked against them. We both picked the Eagles to win that game, but the game went against how we thought. The 49ers took it to the Philadelphia Eagles in that game, Vince. So the Eagles still have one of the best records in the NFL. They only have 2 losses yet this year, but they got handled by the 49ers. Can they bounce back in Dallas?
Here's the thing with Dallas, and I'm going to start with them. In the NFL, there's no such thing as style of points, okay? And I want to give you guys a little bit of what I'm talking about when I say style points, all right? Dallas's point differential this season is 168. You're hearing that correctly. They're 9-3. They've outscored their opponents by 168 points. To the contrary, Philadelphia, 10-2, their point differential, 41. Think about that. They have 8 more wins than losses, and their point differential is 41. Simple math, 41 divided by 8, about 5 points of victory they're averaging, right? I'm not even going to try to do the math on 168 divided by 6, which is that differential for Dallas. Clearly, Dallas is beating up on weaker teams. When they play a weaker team, they absolutely destroy them. Now, so far this year, Dallas lost against Arizona, which no one saw coming, but they've also lost against Philadelphia and San Francisco, if I'm remembering this correctly, and I'm pretty sure that I am. So when you look at their body of work and you look at what Philadelphia did coming into that game this past weekend against San Francisco, Philadelphia had wins over Dallas, Kansas City, Buffalo. They've had a murderer's row of a schedule, and Philadelphia's hung up to that. Were they due for a drop-off against San Francisco? Yeah, I guess they were. I guess it's hard to beat 3 premier teams in a row. We understand that. San Francisco was coming out for blood. Me and Cole and I have a thing where you have to pick an upset every week. That one seemed like the most tempting upset. That being said, can Dallas beat a premier NFC team? They have not done it this season. I just don't feel like they're going to get done yet. Again, they make too many costly mistakes. Home or away, it doesn't matter. Dallas finds a way time and time again to lose games they shouldn't lose, or allow teams to be in games that they shouldn't be in, with horrendous penalties, stupid turnovers, and just bad decision making. Ric Flair, you guys know I'm a big wrestling fan out there. I actually have a wrestling shirt. I think he's actually on this particular shirt. Yeah, there he is. Ric Flair has a saying, to be the man, you have to beat the man, right? Dallas has yet to beat the man. So instead of sitting here and telling you about stats and CeeDee Lamb and Dak Prescott, contract extensions and all that stuff, I'm going to keep it very, very simple here. Until Dallas could beat Philadelphia, I'm going to continue to pick Philadelphia. With that being said, my pick is the Eagles.
You know, whether we're talking about fake wrestling or we're talking about real football, you got to beat the man to be the man, is what you just said. And Dallas is not the man in that division. I mean, that they haven't been, right?
Nope.
As good as they've been, and they can put up these really good records and fool everybody that, oh, this is going to be a contender for a Super Bowl each and every single year in recent times. The thing is, by the time they make it to the postseason, they just collapse and they fall apart. They haven't been the Eagles. The Eagles are a team that have proven that they can do it not only in the regular season, but in the postseason as well. Doesn't really matter what's going to happen in this game, whether Dallas wins or not. If Dallas wins, they get a ton of confidence, can maybe go on a nice run, puts them in a better spot for the postseason. But do I think they can get to the Super Bowl? No, I don't, because I don't trust them. The Eagles, I do trust. They can do what they did last year, make it to the Super Bowl again, and they're still out for vengeance in the sense of they lost the Super Bowl last year. And they felt like they honestly outplayed the Chiefs for a vast majority of that game and felt like they should have won it. So they are hungry. They're on the hunt. Yes, they slipped up against the 49ers, a good San Francisco 49ers team. This Eagles team is too good, in my opinion, to lose back-to-back. Sure, they're going to Jerry's World. They're going to Dallas. But ultimately, the Eagles, in a close ball game, I do believe, are going to prevail. They're going to get back to winning ways, as they've really done almost the entirety of the season. And they're going to take down the Dallas Cowboys and prove that we're the number one in this division. Dallas, there's a reason you're the number 2, and we're always looking down on you in recent times. And the trend's going to continue on Sunday night.
3 games I'm really looking forward to on Sunday, with the exception of the Browns game. That game, Buffalo versus Kansas City, is always a fun one. And my daughter Maggie has her second weekend of basketball on Sunday as well. So definitely some games on Sunday. This guy's looking forward to wholeheartedly.
That's great. That's great. Before we move on, I have to ask, how did basketball go this past weekend?
Well, she plays basketball for North Olmsted. And as you guys know, North Olmsted girls basketball, one of the worst win-loss percentages probably in the last 50 years of girls hoops. So that being said, they lost their first game 44-4 against Bay Village. It wasn't pretty, but then they bounced back and played great out of nowhere.
Good.
Against Olmsted Falls, lost 28-22, only lost by 6 points. and Maggie had her first points of the season and looked really good. She didn't miss a single shot, so that was great.
Awesome.
Yeah. Next game this weekend against Strongsville, 2:00. They're playing Midview, so hopefully she can ball out.
Well, that's fantastic. Yeah, no, the early stages of her basketball career, but I know she loves it, and I'm sure you're enjoying going and watching some of these games because, I mean, you cover enough, high school girls basketball and things, and now you're getting to see, her in a younger phase, right? But developing and learning, and I'm sure it's a pleasure for you.
It's a lot of fun. I sit at the scorer's table. I run the clock just to make sure I'm not in the crowd with the fans and screaming and yelling. So I get a little competitive. So it's probably best to have something to do during the game. So I sit at this table. I run the clock and I cheer on.
Are you good with running the clock, or do you get distracted?
Oh, I'm pretty good. Although when she made her first bucket the other day, I got up and gave Emily a hug. But I'd made sure to click the 2 points before I did that.
Well, great. Well, great. Well, speaking of two, though, as we move on to Monday Night Football, there's two games, okay? And we had to talk about this a little bit right before we hopped on air here because, again, it's surprising when we get two games. We've had it like 2 or 3 times now this season.
Great.
It's not typical. Usually we have the one Monday Night Football game. But again, this is just a weird week where we've got 2 of them. Are either of them really good games? No, they're not. They're not great games. The thing I hate when Monday Night Football is 2 games, especially now, because that takes Peyton and Eli off the air for the week. And that's what I prefer watching on Monday night because it's funny, it's entertaining.
Agreed.
So now we get 2 games that aren't great. We'll talk about them right now, but I don't think there's a whole lot to say. And we'll start with that Packers and Giants matchup. The Packers, they're not good, but they did get a big win against the Kansas City Chiefs. The Chiefs are not the same Chiefs of, some years prior. They're still good. They're still going to be one of the favorites in the AFC, but have they taken a step back and regressed this year? I would say so. They've had some ball games that they probably would have had as blowouts in the past that have been close. They've had to make some comebacks. They did against the Raiders just the other week as well. They haven't been clicking on and firing on all cylinders. I like some things that they have, but Kelsey's slowing down, clearly getting older. Rashee Rice, I like him as a rookie stepping up in the wide receiver spot. Pacheco runs hard at running back, but in general, I think they're still not quite the Tyreek Hill explosiveness, somebody that can just take the top off the defense. Sure, Marquez Valdez-Scantling, I've said it before, he's kind of your guy to vertically stretch the field, but he's not a complete out-and-out burner. So they're just not quite the same as what they were before when we're talking about the Chiefs. Props to the Packers, though. They did enough to win that game, ultimately upset the Chiefs there in Lambeau. Now they go up against a Giants squad that's one of the worst offenses in the league. They've had their issues with injuries at quarterback, with Daniel Jones being out, DeVito stepping in. Obviously, Barkley had his little section of a couple games where he was out. He's a guy you got to give the football to. He's your workhorse. But ultimately, because of how depleted the Giants team is and how much they've struggled this year, I'm going to go with Green Bay. Both of these teams aren't very good, but I feel like the Packers are at least better, so I'm going with Green Bay in this game.
I believe there's such an offensive ineptity going on in the city of New York right now. It's crazy, right? You look at both those football teams, and it's like, where are they going to get the points from? That being said, I disagree with you yet again on Green Bay. I don't think they're as bad as you may think. In fact, what's crazy about it is when you look at their remaining schedule, they're probably going to make the playoffs, if not at least compete for that 7th playoff spot. I mean, the rest of their schedule is very, very weak. I'm not going to put my foot in my mouth and make any crazy guarantees or anything like that and say the Packers are going to make the playoffs. Who knows what they're going to do? But when it comes to Lambeau Field, when it comes to, December football at Lambeau, I'm not overly shocked that they won last night. Was Kansas City the better team? Yeah, by strides. They're better than Green Bay. But the Packers got it done when it counted, so kudos to them. Definitely going to go with them this week. As I said, I don't know, if Jordan Love's the next big deal for Green Bay or not, but he's definitely better than Danny DeVito or Tommy DeVito or Tommy Two-Tone, or whatever you want to call this guy. As far as Saquon Barkley goes, I think that's fool's gold. That was a huge Barkley guy coming out of Penn State, coming into the draft. Like, the guy can't stay healthy. He's a walking eggshell. So you put that on the contract that you paid for Daniel Jones, and if you're a Giants fan right now, my goodness, I don't like your future at all. I just don't. All that being said, going with the Packers.
I think if we actually looked at it, I bet that Saquon Barkley has maybe the same amount of time out, if not just slightly less time out injured than Christian McCaffrey in his career.
Yeah, it's up there. Also, not to bag on a guy while he's down, because I'm probably the biggest Nick Chubb fan you're going to meet. I love Nick Chubb, but start looking at the time he's missed. Like, if you guys go back a couple of years ago when the Browns made the playoffs, the COVID year, Stefanski's first season, I want to say Chubb missed 6 games that year. So, you pick a running back top 5 like the Giants did with Barkley, you better hope the guy doesn't get hurt.
The vast majority of star running backs have actually had extended periods of time out just because of the beating that they take and, just injuries that happen. So I think Barkley's a great running back, but the thing is, when there's no passing threat in an offense, they can just key on him.
Right.
And that limits him because they're just keyed on Barkley.
Mm-hmm.
So, but when they can actually throw the ball and at least stretch the defense out a little bit, he's a monster. He's a great player. So I think it's less on Barkley than it is actually the Giants franchise, because he's that whole offense. If it wasn't for Saquon Barkley, they probably don't make the playoffs last year. They had that run and they were doing enough offensively to put up enough points, but they rode a decent defense last year, made the postseason, and a lot of that had to do with Saquon Barkley. So, but he's really about all that they've got on offense, because Darren Waller's been out hurt with the hamstring again for a long stretch this year. So, it's bad there in New York. And I know you're saying that Green Bay, they certainly might be in the spot to potentially compete for a playoff spot. You're right, but that's not about the Packers being good. That's how bad the NFC is this year.
The NFC is terrible, and they've had a lot of luck.
Bad.
Green Bay's had a lot of luck. They've had their schedule's horrible. Like, go back and look at the wins that they've had.
I'm going to say this. I'm going to say we have 2 playoff teams in the NFC that have losing records this year.
I can see
I think the winner of the NFC South is going to have probably a losing record. I'm going to say it's the Falcons at like 8-9. That's my best guess. And then I think the 7th seed is also going to have a losing record. So I just think you're going to see that last wild card spot and the NFC South winner both have losing records, because that's how bad the NFC actually is this year.
Well, we need to move on to the next Monday Night Football game, and I promise you guys out there in TV land we will, but I got to make a point about the Falcons just because you brought them up. So much talent on that team going to waste. I just hope as the season goes on or next year or whatever, I'm not fire the coach guy, whatever, but that team has a crud load of talent. They just need to figure out how to use it better. That's all. That's my 2-second Atlanta Falcon riff.
Yeah. Defense has actually played very well as of late. The offense, they have good pieces, good weapons on that. But the funny thing with Arthur Smith, he's a weird dude when it comes to, he likes using his stars as decoys.
Yeah,
he's like
stupid.
Saquon, he's like, excuse me, Bijan Robinson is out there on the field. Oh, that's going to draw attention. I'm going elsewhere because all the attention's on him. Give the guy the ball, right?
Yeah.
He's so good. He's so good. Give him the ball. I just do not understand that. He's a guy who, with that talent, he needs to go. But if they win that division, no matter what their record is, he's there to stay. And which is a shame for Desmond Ridder. It's a shame for Bijan Robinson. It's a shame for the talent they have on that team. But nonetheless, we can move on to another team that's struggling this year on Monday Night Football. The Tennessee Titans take on the Miami Dolphins. And I don't have much to say about this aside from the Dolphins have one of the best records in the NFL. They're a high-powered offense. They're going up against a Titans team that is crumbling and falling apart. They did play the Colts close, but Vrabel's a very good coach. I've said it before, but I think this is what's going to happen, and this is my best guess. I think, because Mike Vrabel's a good coach. He's well regarded and respected in the NFL. I think that at the end of this year, makes sense to me, when the Chargers get rid of Brandon Staley and the Titans get rid of Mike Vrabel, I feel like Mike Vrabel is a shoo-in to take that Chargers job. Because they have so many good defensive pieces, so many talented guys, right? You have an offense where you have Justin Herbert and some good people, and you have Kellen Moore as the offensive coordinator. I would keep Kellen Moore, see what he can do with that offense, and let Vrabel focus on making that defense tougher because they have some good weapons over there. And bring in a coach that knows how to win and can manage games a whole lot better than what Staley's proven that he can do. So I think Vrabel should be a shoe-in there. To me, it makes a lot of sense for Vrabel to go out there to the Los Angeles Chargers. We'll see what actually happens, but that would be my best fit. I'd love to see that. But there's not much more I have to say about the Titans aside from they're going to lose to the Dolphins. They're going to get smoked this week, and we get to watch it in prime time, them perform poorly.
Yeah, I could tell you there's so many other games this week that I'd rather watch in primetime football than this one. Crazy that it's on a Monday night football, especially in a doubleheader night like this, which is just odd to me. But regardless, Tennessee 2 years removed from being the number one seed in AFC. That's how dramatic of a fall it's been. I'll just say that. You mentioned Mike Vrabel too. You know, it's crazy. You hear all kinds of things when you listen to enough sports radio. People say the silliest of things, but one thing that jumped out to me was Ryan Day leaving the Buckeyes to be the offensive coordinator for the Chargers next year, which is strange because I don't even think their head coach is going to be there next year. So that was one of the more wild takes. I'd say it's more likely for Mike Vrabel to leave Tennessee to go coach the Buckeyes if Ryan Day gets the boot. That to me is way more likely. All that aside,
Ryan Day's there to stay. Yep.
Oh, I don't think there's any doubt now.
He's not going anywhere.
They're going to give him another shot with a different quarterback next year, but regardless, so I just feel like in this one, Tennessee's got some problems, right? DeAndre Hopkins is not a long-term answer. Him and Will Levis were already snapping at each other over the last weekend. Just stupidity there. If I'm a guy like Will Levis, I'm just doing whatever I'm told and trying to get through the season, get enough on tape to maybe even compete for the starting job next year or whatever else. But I think he called that right a few weeks ago. He's starting to show he's definitely sloped off a little bit. Yep. That being said, Miami, how good are they? I really don't know, Cole. I really don't know. It's going to be fun to watch them in the playoffs just to see how far they could go with that offense. This should be a layup of victory in the meantime. Definitely going to pick the Dolphins. I don't know how good they are just yet, but it's going to be fun to watch. So cap it off, Dolphins, Green Bay. I think we agreed on both.
Yeah, we did. And the Dolphins, when it comes to how good they are, I don't think I'm actually going to know how good they are unless they win an AFC championship and make it to the Super Bowl. Because right now I just look at them as a flashy team that I don't know if they're built to win a championship. And until they actually get to the Super Bowl and kind of prove that they are built to at least get there, I think that would change my opinion. Right now I look at them as a flashy team that's good, that is not built to maybe let's say they have to go somewhere. I know they have a top record, but they're still going to be competing to try to get, a bunch of home games through the postseason. There's a lot of teams still in that mix. So if the Dolphins skid for a couple weeks and slide down and they're now like the 4 seed, right? Or the 3 seed, and they have to go on the road in cold weather, I don't know if they're built for that. I think they're a high-flying, high-powered offense, and if they're in warm weather and domes the whole time, they may be okay. But defensively, are they strong enough? Can they play a tough 16-13 game and win it? I don't know if they are. So I'm looking forward to see what they can do the rest of the season, but I think I'm just going to have to see it to believe it come the postseason.
Agreed. Also, I forgot to mention Pittsburgh earlier. I know we talked about them. It's wild that Kenny Pickett probably isn't going to play in this game considering he's undefeated in prime time. And here they are with another primetime game. I can't believe how many primetime games the Pittsburgh Steelers, the New York Jets, and the New York Giants get every single year despite records or whatever else. Blows my mind. Flex scheduling in this league should start week 8. This should go to flex scheduling on the Sunday night and the Monday night games. But that's neither here or there.
Well, and I think they should be allowed to flex more games. I think they should
Yeah.
be able to move the schedule around more than what it is. I know that's a pain in the sense of when people are trying to buy tickets in advance, and you kind of have the schedule set, and it could be a lot of moving pieces and moving parts. I'm not saying that there should be a ton of it, but I definitely think that all primetime games should be open for flex because, in my opinion, the only thing that's tough is Thursday because it's a short week, so it'd be tough to flex that. But I think Sunday, I think Monday, in the occasional Saturday game, I think you should be able to flex. That Black Friday game, I think you should be able to flex that. So
That was stupid, anyways.
yeah, I think anything that's not a Thursday game, you should be able to flex because nobody wants to watch junk football on prime time. Truly. Like find your best games, like your best couple games each week. And if need be, you can move them to a primetime slot. That's all I'm saying. So we'll move on to our upset picks here. And we'll touch on probably some teams that you maybe have some interest in here very shortly, a little teaser here. But Vince, with the upset pick, I got a feeling I think I know where you are going with your upset pick. And I'm going to guess that it is the Denver Broncos, but we will wait and see. So go ahead, Vince, with your upset pick this week.
Yeah, I'll tell you what, it was tempting, but I feel like Staley is coaching for his job right now. I still don't think he's going to save it. I think Staley is done at the end of the year. How the Chargers could put up 6 points against the putrid New England Patriots is beyond me. But Denver going on the road 2 weeks in a row, Denver going to Houston, now Denver going to Los Angeles. I think some of the luster, some of the shine's off them. So I actually did pick the Chargers.
Wow.
I know, right? Crazy. I'm at that point in the season right now where I'm picking the better team. You know what I mean? I'm done with trends.
Fair.
I'm done with histories. I'm done with routines. It's go time, fellas. I mean, we are. We are tied yet again going into crunch time. So that being said, that I do believe the Chargers are the better team. So gonna go with them. That's a heart versus head kind of pick. As far as who my upset pick actually was, this one to me, kind of strange that they were an underdog in the first place. But I checked 3 different websites. All of them had them as the underdog. So I'm going to go with it as my official upset pick. And that's Las Vegas over Minnesota. I think, over the last 2 games, Joshua Dobbs has been completely exposed as to what he is, a career backup. At the same time, even though Las Vegas lost their last game before their bye week, they had won 2 in a row under the new coach. Antonio Pierce seems to get something out of that club, especially when they play at home. I mean, the AFC is tough. AFC is way tougher than NFC this year. I do not foresee Las Vegas sneaking into the playoffs, so please don't take it that far. But I do see them winning this game and keeping a flicker, and I mean flicker, of a playoff hope alive. What that does to Minnesota at 6-7, if they do in fact lose this game and drop to 6-7, they're still going to be in the hunt. I just kind of feel like their luck has run out. Now, Justin Jefferson is questionable. To me, that means he's probably going to give it a go. He's probably going to play. That should help out Joshua Dobbs. Got to pick an upset somewhere. Love to pick a home team upset when I can. I feel too like a fully healthy Las Vegas team coming off a bye has had plenty of time to prepare. Going to go with the Raiders.
The Raiders aren't great. The Vikings aren't great. But Justin Jefferson is likely going to be back this week. That 21-day window was opened up a little over 2 weeks ago, pushing 3 weeks now at this point. So now they're coming off of a bye week. And I feel like if he's on the field and he's even close to 100%, he's a huge difference maker for Dobbs in that offense. Jordan Addison, Hawkinson, it definitely frees up some space for them as well, where they're not getting keyed on because Justin Jefferson is back. So I think that could be huge for that offense. That's why I went with the Minnesota Vikings. So we're on different pages there. As much as I don't think Minnesota is great, I don't think the Raiders are good either. So that's a tough one. It's definitely 50-50 there, but I do think Justin Jefferson would be the one to push Minnesota over the edge. So I am going to do it to you, Vince. You hate when I do something like this,
You're picking
but
Denver.
I'm picking Denver. Yeah, yeah. And here's what I've said before, and I think I've driven you crazy here a couple times recently because Denver has gone on a little bit of run, and you know what I keep saying? They suck. They're terrible, and you're
Yes,
like,
you do over and over again.
"Oh, what are you talking about? They're on a winning streak." I'm like, they're not good. The Broncos are the Packers of the AFC this year. They're both deceptively good with their records, but they're both not very good. The thing I have to give credit to the Broncos for, though, is Sean Payton has actually started to turn things around a little bit. Russell Wilson's starting to find a little bit of the Russell Wilson of old. That's what's helping them out. Defensively, they don't have a ton of major, like massive names on that defense, but they actually play pretty well. And I've been a big Baron Browning guy for years because of his time at Ohio State.
Right.
He was a really good linebacker who, when he got moved to being more like an outside linebacker that got to rush the passer almost every single time, he looks phenomenal. He's explosive. He's a threat to get into the backfield. And then they have other pieces around like Jonathan Cooper, who's another Ohio State guy. Guys that aren't the biggest names in the NFL. They're not your TJ Watts. They're not Myles Garrett, but they're still explosive enough that they can make things happen. So I think the pass rush of that defense, and I think Sean Payton helping Russell Wilson maybe get comfortable and find kind of a new revived life in the NFL. He's not great anymore, but he's good, and he's good enough as of late because he had looked bad previously. Now he's gone back into that good category. And you have some powerful running backs. Sure, they're really not going for massive games each and every single week, but when you need them to get 3, 4, 5 yards, I trust P. Ryan and Javonte Williams with their physicality to get a first down when need be. So I think they have enough going their way right now that a Chargers team that is more talented, I think the Chargers are better, but Brandon Staley doesn't get the best out of his players. Sean Payton's a better head coach than Brandon Staley. Staley might be coaching for his job, or at least thinks he's coaching for his job, but he's already done. I don't think whatever happens the rest of the year doesn't matter. Staley's toast. And Joey Bosa being out, that hurts that defense. Ultimately, I think the Broncos get this one done as an underdog. And there you have it. It's one of those things where Vince would probably love to see his Broncos win for the sole fact of rooting for the Broncos. But now he's also going to kind of be rooting against me. And so that's why he's going to be like, hey, if the Broncos lose, I'm not going to be all that upset in the sense of I get a game up on Cole.
And that's the thing, too. It's like the few times every year, because it happens 4 or 5 times a year, where you will pick the Browns and I won't. Same kind of feeling.
Fair. No, that's pretty accurate. So, I mean, it happens sometimes where there are a couple times where you will pick the Browns and I will pick the other way. I think it's typically been flipped there where you're more likely to pick against the Browns than I have been, especially this season.
I love that stat. I would love to know the stat of how many times I've picked the Browns and you haven't. You got to be able to count on one hand. So, yeah, for sure.
Probably. A lot of times we're on the same page with those games.
I got a weird feeling we are this week, too, but we'll see here in a little bit.
Well, we'll see here. So we'll move to the Cleveland Browns here. And they go up against the Jacksonville Jaguars, a team that, especially with the Browns going on a 2-game losing streak, that's a scary team to host, that Jags team. They have their moments where they're a little bit slow offensively. Then they have their moments where they look really good. And they've been on a tear the last 3 weeks where they've been putting up points. Mm-hmm. They've been performing really well. And then the injury happens to Trevor Lawrence. And I'll tell you what, this is a year where starting quarterbacks in the NFL have been terrorized, plagued with season-ending injuries. It's wild. And it looked like Trevor Lawrence, we may lose him. And the crazy thing is, earlier in the year, when he kind of tweaked his knee, there was talk about Trevor Lawrence has never had major knee injuries or anything like that. And then when I saw that play where his tackle steps back, steps on his foot, and he kind of gets sacked and bends backwards, his heel like touched his butt, like lower back area, and I'm thinking, man, this is not good. Hopefully this guy does yoga and works on flexibility constantly, because that is not comfortable, right? Fortunately enough, it sounds like it's only an ankle sprain, which looked like it could have been much worse. But with an ankle sprain, I'm still going to say against that Browns defense, who have struggled a little bit on the road, but I think at home they're going to probably find a little bit of a revived life. I don't know if the Jags can run him out on the field. I think they're going to have to go with Beathard, let Trevor Lawrence rest, because losing this game isn't the end of the world. You should make the playoffs this year. I think you have to let your quarterback get healthy. And for that reason, I'm going to say that Cleveland wins this ball game. I'll touch on Cleveland here. I think that defense has to bounce back. They perform better at home, like I mentioned. Myles Garrett hasn't been nearly as effective because maybe that shoulder's been bugging him. But in general, that defense, I think with Jim Schwartz, they're going to be able to find a way to scheme things up to make some plays actually happen at home. But on offense, Joe Flacco has to be the guy, I think. Joe Flacco showed at, 38, 39 years old at this point, the second oldest quarterback active in the league here. And was a guy who was on his couch not too long ago, but he showed his arm strength that he has. He's not a mobile quarterback. I talked about last week, it's going to have to be a lot of play action, like Jacoby Brissett-like system from last year. But the thing is, drive number 1 against the Rams, lights out, looked flawless. He made a ton of great decisions, gorgeous passes, things that PJ Walker might have overthrown, DTR might have skipped into the turf, right? Joe Flacco's delivering strikes. He looked really good, and he really had the one mistake, and that was that deep ball down the field, and it hurt the Browns. It did cost them, but it's one of those things where I like what I saw from him. I think he's got to be the guy the rest of the year, and I think with him, your offense has a good chance to put up enough points to do enough as long as the defense gets the stops. And that's what I say not only for this week when I think that they get the win and bounce back at home, but I think just the rest of the season as well.
I think they need to play Flacco the rest of the season. I don't even think there's a question about it. If he could stay healthy, I think he's the man. He looked good. He looked sharp, made smart decision-making. It's NFL. People are going to throw interceptions every now and then. It happens. So I wasn't even concerned with that. I think with the way that game was going, the really more so, I felt like the Rams figured out the Browns defense, how to strike quick. That's how you're going to beat them. If you don't have a mobile quarterback where you can do any kind of RPO, which is another way to beat the Browns, but if you don't have that, you have a smart veteran like Stafford. You have quick receivers like Cooper Kupp and obviously Puka Nacua. They had the weapons to beat them, and they did. Now, that being said, 7-5, the Browns have 5 very winnable games coming up on their schedule.
Yeah.
Really, I kind of feel like their toughest test is on the road at Houston. That's just my own 2 cents on that. But you look at the games they have coming up, they have some winnable games. Yeah, I know a lot of people thought the Broncos and the Rams were going to be walkthroughs, but I picked against them both weeks for a reason, right? So all I'm telling you is that they're in a situation now where it's right there in front of them. They're going to need to run the ball a little bit more to set up that play action fake. But I think Joe Flacco is going to give you a very good chance to win. He's not going to take it away from you like a PJ Walker would or a DTR would. This is their shot. They lose this week, it's going to get real rough real fast. But this is a very, very winnable game for the Browns. Definitely see them doing that. Would love to see about 15 carries from Hunt, maybe 15 carries from Jerome Ford. Really mix it up. We don't know how the weather's going to be. It is Northeast Ohio. It was slushy and rainy tonight. So we'll see how it goes when we get there, but I really do believe even if Jacksonville was fully healthy and even if Trevor Lawrence was playing fully healthy, I still would have picked the Browns. This is a game I felt the Browns are due to win.
Hey, I'm loving Joe Flacco. He got our boy David Bell 2 receptions as well, a guy who's been very underutilized this season as well. So obviously,
I'll give you some trivia.
Yeah, what's up?
I'll give you guys a little trivia too. When it comes to Jacksonville, the Browns, since the Browns came back to the league in '99, they almost never beat Jacksonville. For whatever reason, it's one of those teams they always seem to lose to. However, here's your trivia. The 2 times the Browns made the playoffs since they've been back in 02 and in 2020, they actually beat Jacksonville. In 02, they beat them on a Hail Mary to Dennis Northcutt. Or it might have been Quincy Morgan. I think it was Quincy Morgan, so I apologize. But they beat Jacksonville on a Hail Mary to Quincy Morgan, couched to Morgan in 02, and they beat them the COVID year in 2020. So the Browns beat Jacksonville this year. I think they're going to the playoffs.
Fair enough. Browns win. They go to the playoffs. You heard it here first. And of course, we're both hoping for the same thing here to happen this week. Well, Vince, obviously all the picks are going to be up on the website. We know of at least 2 that we have been different on this week through talking through this episode. If there are any other games that we may potentially be different on with our picks, everybody can go over to keonsports.com to check those out. If it is just 2 different ones, well, there's a chance we may split and maybe keep the matching record as well. It feels like a lot of times when we pick the same amount of games, we end up splitting, or we end up just being the same right down the middle, and ultimately still are tied up. So we'll see what actually happens, but looking forward to this week, like I always say, and really hoping the Browns get back on the right track. But enjoy your basketball watching as well this upcoming weekend.
Big weekend ahead, man. We are excited. The funny thing too, fans, we are on minute 50 of the show. We have actually talked more football and probably more sports in general on this show than Cole and I did for an entire weekend in a press box together. A lot of people are like, "Oh man, you guys was at so much downtime, and did you go swimming at the hotel?" It cracks me up because it's like, guys, like it is work. Like it might not seem like work, but it is a repeated pattern of nonstop 18-hour days. But again, Cole, just want to shout you out. We started the show talking about it. I'll close the show talking about it. Had an absolute blast. Not another person in this world I'd rather do this with. So definitely a good time last weekend. Glad that it's done. Glad to get a bit of a breather for sure, but so much fun. You asked about this coming weekend. It's going to be good to see what the Browns could do. And again, a winnable game at home, which they've had nothing but success with this year. Top of my head, I want to say they've only lost 1 home game. That was the DTR, started out of nowhere against the Ravens. So they've really, really been able to defend, First Energy Stadium, Cleveland Brown Stadium, whatever it is now, whatever they want to call it. They need to continue to do that. So yeah, big weekend of football ahead. We got the Heisman Trophy winner, and I guess I'll let you take us home. Before you take us home, who's going to win the Heisman?
I think that there's been a lot of hype around Jayden Daniels, but me personally, I think Michael Penix should be the guy to win this thing. He's led Washington to an undefeated season, and this is a Washington team that I think they have a potential of beating Texas. I think that's a good one. No, I think that one is really fun, that matchup, because I think it could go either way. And do I think that the team that wins the playoff probably comes out of the Alabama-Michigan game? Likely. But I really think that Texas-Washington one could be fun. And Penix has led that team. That offense has been impressive. They've continued to find ways to win games this year. And even against Oregon, when things were trending the way of Oregon, he managed to lead a great drive, lead that offense down the field, score points. He was good at Indiana, had his injuries though, went off to Washington's been fantastic, and I think it should be him. So I'm going to say that I think Penix should be number 1, Jayden Daniels 2, Nix 3, and Marvin Harrison Jr. 4. And Marvin Harrison Jr., props to him for being one of 4 guys there as a wide receiver. It's really a quarterback award. Very few people even make it as a defensive player or a wide receiver or anything along those lines. Running back is probably the second position you see behind quarterback, but it truly is a quarterback award at this point. So just getting there to New York is a huge accomplishment. It's a testament to how good Marvin Harrison Jr. really is. He's an unreal threat. Can't wait to see him at the next level, but I'm going to say Penix wins it.
What year is Caleb Williams in at USC?
well, he's a junior, but you're going to see him go to the NFL.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's a guy that obviously you can't leave after your sophomore year to go to the NFL, but man, this year kind of hit him. I mean, I still think he goes as one of the top 3 quarterbacks selected, but that was a guy who came into the season with all kinds of hype, USC, all that hype, that really fell flat. That being said, I agree with you. Actually, I would like it, as wild as it would be to see go to a Pac-10 quarterback 2 years in a row. I still think it'd be really cool if it wants the kid from Washington. I feel like he deserves it.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I will say Caleb Williams, he's going to be the first quarterback drafted still.
Well, I know where I get my draft coverage.
Yeah, he's still going to go. His talent's unreal. It's not the physical standpoint; it's the mental standpoint of, can he go to one of the worst teams in the league and lose games and like somehow keep his composure, be a leader, or is he just going to pout and completely lose it like he has at USC after losing a few games this year? So I don't know. He's got some growing up to do when it comes to that, but the physical traits are there. There's a reason why he's going to be still a top draft pick. Well, maybe some teams steer away from him, maybe, but I think anybody who's desperate for a quarterback, they're going to take their shot with him. So that's all I have to say about that. Draft coverage going to come up here before too long. Going to be, diving into that here, into this start of this next year, and looking forward to that again. But last thing I want to say with high school football wrapping up, thankful it's done. Had a great time covering that. Enjoyed sitting next to you in the press box. Shout out to my guys, Brandon Soder and Dom Clary as well, for a great year of broadcasts on Friday nights, as well as the podcast. We did the 4 weeks as well of that for the postseason. Had a blast all year. To all the staff, all the work they did. High school football is huge for us. Everybody out there who viewed content, who listened to the games or watched highlights, again, thank you for paying attention to that. Wraps up a busy part of our year, but a part that we really enjoy. And now we just move into the winter season, and times change a little bit, but like I said, still plenty of coverage content coming up on the website. So for myself, Cole McDaniel, Vince McKee, that does it for the Week 14 episode. Make sure you join us next week for Week 15.
Climatech is a full-service company. We install as well as service both residential and commercial products. We service furnaces, air conditioners, heat pumps, boilers, mini split systems, tankless hot water. We've got a good group of technicians that have been developed into a company culture that delivers a good degree of confidence to the customer and gives us a good product output. They want to take care of the customer and make sure that the customer is satisfied with their service. And when you've got non-stressed employees at your home, you're going to get a greater result from that service call or from that installation. Our customer needs, comfort, and health are of utmost importance, and we strive to provide that to every customer within their budget. As we continue to grow, we remain focused on maintaining our high level of customer satisfaction. When you hire Climatech, you're hiring a whole team of experts that have been in the business well over 80 years. If you're looking for a new install, if you're looking for just maintenance on your equipment, we are the company of your choice.